will it work out so Kuso gay anyway? The shit balance makes it fun.
Well, you know, that is the thing. I remember, and I hope I'd friggin' remember because I watched the damn thing last night. It was a video that got recommended to me on YouTube, and it was some fella, don't know his name, on YouTube, but it was basically like, don't let the pros design your game.
Yes, that's recipe for disaster.
That's a very, very important concept. And it's just to say, like, hey, the pros actually do have, like, I mean, we can all agree, they have fantastic insights into the game. You know, they're going to have insights into the game that, you know, that the most the developers won't even have, because they're coming at a new perspective, right? So I am definitely not just doing this to shit and pros, like, they're extremely valuable. Absolutely. In the same way that a casual player who has no prior understanding of your game is actually, you know, their opinions are so important because you might have implicit assumptions and they will test your implicit assumptions. So basically the point was, because he was talking about things in the context of Halo and, you know, the ever-shifting design of that and some other games. And I suppose I want to think about it in terms of balance. Because, you know, it's that really crazy thing. And you said Kusage, it just made me think, like, oh, man, yeah, I mean, look, when shit's busted, it can be really fun.
Yeah. Look at 8.3.
Look at it. Yeah, and, you know, it is just a funky thing to think about, because we don't want a situation like with late Hellfire Citadel where, you know, a mythic raid of friggin', I don't know, 15 or 18, whatever it was, arcane mages just walks in and deletes a boss in 45 seconds because of the mad scaling of everything. Like, sure, we don't want that level of OP, but...
oh, yeah, I remember
it's like there's
Worldbreaker.
Yeah, like, there's just so many games where it's like, the point is that everything's overpowered. Yeah. And I guess the challenge that Blizzard have here as game designers is their version of everything feels overpowered means everything feels strong within its niche.
Yeah.
And then that just means there's a hyper ideal comp for every form of gameplay because nobody's generally OP. Everyone is specifically OP. But game content, it's like Mythic Plus, Clear the Trash, Tyrannical Week. You know, right? So then if they want to fix that problem, they can use the absolute fucking cudgel of just being like, raid buff!
Yeah.
Combat res! Heroism! You know, it's like, we're going to give you this one thing, which means you get a place.
Yeah,
so
but
it's a really challenging design space, because there are so many games where it's like, yeah, you're just fucking OP. Like the action RPG genre. You know, like that is the genre where it's like the overriding design goal is everyone feels OP. Everyone can feel broken whenever they, you know, they get their multiple piece set or whatever. So it's just this, it's just an interesting thing. It's an interesting thing. I mean, man, you think about Destrolock 5.4, Blood DK 5.4 as well, but mostly Destrolock. And I was like, fuck, that was so fun. It was so powerful. But then it's interesting because it was in a way where like... No, it was...
I thought you were talking about Aflock with the
the snapshotting?
Yeah, snapshotting, yeah.
Maybe I'm losing my mind. I thought it was Destro. No, it was Destro was flavor of the month towards the end of month.
Right.
But like, yeah, anyway. It was one of those things, like at the time, like I would advocate for keeping it the way that it was because I thought that was really cool depth. But I don't know, I guess you sort of do get these like insights into what it's going to be like for the designer as they navigate this like fucking crazy space where you need to, or you know, you feel like you need to raise the skill floor to the point where you don't lose players, but you need to keep the skill ceiling really high so that people can really feel accomplishment and mastery as they play the game more. Which in fairness, like, you know, in Disc Priest, that's an example. I'm really feeling that. And that's, as I covered in the video that went up on the channel last night, it really is feeling good to me. Yeah. But, even Disc, like Disc is a perfect example of this. Disc, it's like not all of your damage goes through to Atonement, and that's not really I don't want to say logical, but you know, you wouldn't expect that perhaps. You were saying Holy apparently does more damage than Disc, which obviously you would not expect given the design goals.
Yeah, well that's because Blizzard can't balance their game.
It's like they can't balance their game.
Numerically, they just can't.
But then the problem is, if Disc was doing vaguely similar HPS to Holy, and then was doing more damage than Holy, or if it was doing more similar HPS and more damage, well then because the game's prioritizing damage, so then Blizzard's in this really fucking annoying situation where they think to themselves, well shit, we have a really awesome class fantasy here. And the balance of the game means we always have to kneecap that fantasy. They tried to go full class fantasy with Surrender to Madness.
Yeah.
And look at all the madness that caused for them.
People absolutely loved the shit out of Legion Shadow Priest to the point where, and this is more than, I think the only thing that gets even close to, I see people asking for it, is it Mists of Pandaria survival? Was it good? Was it Cav survival? Was it what survival? It was some survival before the Legion changes, and people were like, it was like the magic dot kind of thing, and everyone actually really liked it. But it's like that and Shadow Priest are the ones people go, oh my god, I remember the good old days. It's like that and maybe old Demo Lock because it had the...
Back when before they got pre-cucked.
Before they get stolen, literally cucked. But like that stuff was like really, really like fun stuff. That was really like fun stuff, but it was a little bit out of spec. And that's the thing where you have this tremendous problem of just balance. What is balance for? Who benefits from good balance? And the answer is ostensibly in a game like this, well, you don't want to ever have a class that doesn't work, right? Because you don't want a class that isn't invited. And this is where we loop back around to a very different solution, which is the solution isn't in your class balance. The solution isn't in class utility. That's barking up the wrong tree entirely. It seems that way, but the solution is actually to adjust the game's culture otherwise. And I've got a perfect example for you.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy XIV Party Finder, where basically you can restrict it, because the way it works is, I'm sure people know when I've talked this before, but the person who's joining a party, if they're eligible for the party, they click join, they join. You're not waiting in a list of like applicants to be selected. You just, if you're eligible, you join. That's more or less how it worked. That's how it works. And that means that, especially when it comes to stat bonuses for having unique roles in your party. So if you have the like ranged and melee and tank and healer, you get extra stats, which is literally just, oh yeah, you should have a balanced party, like solidified. They can't do that with 5-mans in World of Warcraft because that's a little bit limiting. But the point there is that everything is close enough balance-wise that it doesn't really matter, and also you're never not selected based on what you are. There's a little bit of a slightly mitigating factor in that there's one job per, or one player per job that you can take in the party. So there's a little bit of self-selection where not everyone can play the one job, because then it gets different. And they have different utility for healers, like actual pure healers and barrier healers. But the fundamental point of that is that change how groups are selected and picked up. Don't change the classes, because the point is you need classes to actually play. You need classes to be fun, and you need people to actually enjoy playing the game. Then everything else will do the rest. And yeah, Poldo, you can create a party finder asking for specific jobs. I have, well, not that I've got the most experience, especially in like high-end stuff, but for like the extremes and stuff like that, I've never seen that. I've seen it accidentally, and you whisper the person, say, hey, you've accidentally locked their slot, and they go, oh yeah, sorry about that, and then you join. And that's the stuff that's like, that works for them because it's the meta, or the choosing around the meta is disincentivized by how the system is set up for selection. So you can just join whatever group you want, as long as you're eligible, as opposed to this realm of, oh sorry, you're a Ret Paladin, and you don't really have the highest item level. No, you're not been selected for any groups, no matter how hard you try. Better bring your own key, or start your own raid. And that's one of the things where, like, that party finder version just seems to eliminate a lot of that problem. Also, they have similar enough balance at the end of the day, but... And that's the thing, right? Where Savage right now is nuts. Arcturine, see, that's actually an interesting thing. Where that is P8S. I would consider that pretty high end, right? Paladin's been refused. Machine has been refused. I think that makes sense because they basically have encountered the World of Warcraft problem of their balance isn't great, and the community perception around difficulty and balance is there. And they did maybe tune that DPS check a little hard. Maybe they did kind of screw it up a little bit there. But that's a fun thing where fundamentally I think they need to focus on making the game fun more. Because the end goal, right? And this is the part that I'm worried about more than anything else. And also the P8S problem will likely go away with gear soon because everyone will got past the damage check because the DPS check's the problem, not utility. I think the problem is that all roads lead in the class balance sense to homogenization. And that's actually been, I saw someone tweeting a absolute storm about how like homogenization of cooldown timers in FF14 led to this problem slightly of DPS being unbalanced. But fundamentally the point is all roads lead to homogenization. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now with the AoE casters. So you look at Destrolock, and sure, Chaos Bolt and Havoc and all that stuff is fun, but what do? They build up the resources and press Rain of Fire.
Yep.
What does Shaman do? Build up the resources, press Earthquake. Sure, there's differences in like how they build those resources with Chain Lightning versus just Incinerate splitting and trying to havoc your conflagrates and stuff. And then Boomkin. Hey, we've just changed Boomkin. What does it do? Multi-dots and then spends its resource on Starfall on a targeted ground location? They're like, so those three play the same? In AoE? Meh. That's a bit shit. But that makes them very balanceable. Which is homogenization at the end of the day. And that's the problem you're going to do.
Yeah,
that's the problem you're going to do.
There's also going to be a degree of this if you need 38 balance specs. Again, just to emphasize, 38 balance specs is fucking insane. Especially
Absolutely
when
insane.
This is a non-in lads, let's do a whole bunch of damage in PvE content.
Yeah.
It's very different to the kind of like self-balancing, shifting and changing metas of a LoL or a Dota or an Overwatch where there's just other elements to it, whereas in WoW it's like
picks and bans.
Yeah, it's like in WoW it's like these are the numbers, bro.
Yeah.
So I certainly empathize with their challenges.
I absolutely do. That's why I think that maybe I hope they try to do something different because clearly they've been trying this for the guts of 20 years.
Yeah.
And it's kind of not been working super well. It does get there.